Good afternoon, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. How are you both?
We're doing well. We're doing well. A lot to get into with you, Michael. Do you think the 49ers were 2 days out here? Latest reports are Mac Jones or that they've focused in on two quarterbacks here with the third overall pick. Explain it to Michael. Maggie and I were talking about the other day. You make that move up to the third overall pick, and you really haven't targeted one quarterback that you really want.
Well, I'm not buying that. I mean, I think you clearly targeted. I think they felt like, look, when the season ended, Kyle Shanahan spent a lot of time going over the quarterbacks, and I think there were some people in their organization, particularly the scouting department, that really liked Trey Lance. I think he favored Mac Jones. And I think this whole operation of what we've seen in the last month, I mean, I reported 2 weeks ago that Justin Fields wasn't in this situation. He wasn't involved. That was 2 weeks ago. Now it came out yesterday. Somehow it's now all of a sudden it's fact. 2 weeks ago it was fact. He was never involved. It's always been between Mac Jones and the scouting department likes Trey Lance. And I think Kyle Shanahan's tried to get comfortable. I don't think they were prepared for the backlash from social media that Justin Fields and his group really, not that he created it, but the creation, because they gave up the two number one picks. Everybody says, really without knowing, well, you could have picked Mac Jones at 12. Why did you move up? Why did you give away 2 once? And I think that's caused such discontent, and they had to go through this whole procedure to where yesterday John Lynch said, well, I'm going to acquiesce to whatever Kyle thinks. Yeah, really, no doubt. He has it in his contract. He has all the power. So you're going to give in to him because it's his call.
Interesting. Okay, so but do you think that the San Francisco 49ers, did they overpay to go up to 3 to get Mac Jones, if indeed that's who they want? Did they screw themselves by trading away those 2 first-round picks?
Well, I think it depends on how he plays, right? I think, Kyle Shanahan will make Mac Jones play well. He'll be an extension of him on the field if that's who they decide to pick, which is what I believe. But he's got to play at a high level. I mean, you trade away 2 number ones, it's Super Bowl or bust, right? I mean, it's really can't be anything more than that. I do think they were very concerned, and you can see it in this draft. I mean, 7's up available. You could get to 7 if you want. You could definitely get to 8 if you want in this draft. And I think that the 49ers, specifically Kyle, was worried that there was some team, New England specifically, maybe Denver, maybe Carolina, that would have moved up to get Mac Jones, and he wanted to make sure that he got the player. And he can compensate with the loss of picks by adding other players in other years because he's got his blue-chip quarterback.
Why the secrecy, though? Like, if we believe that Trevor Lawrence is going to go 1 and Zach Wilson's going to go 2, why do the 49ers need to be so secretive about this?
Well, it's all for TV, right? I mean, TV doesn't want you to give out the picks. I mean, how about, 3 weeks ago, we read a column that said that the Jaguars haven't really decided they're leaning towards. Seriously, I mean, are you kidding me?
Right.
I mean, the reality of this deal was that Urban Meyer would have never left the TV network if it wasn't for Trevor Lawrence. There's no way. So we know Lawrence is 1. Zach Wilson was 2. Once he cleared medically for them, he was going to be 2. And I think somewhere today or tomorrow we'll get confirmation on who they're going to pick in San Francisco.
Mike, separate fact from fiction here. What's the range of opinions on Fields out of Ohio State? Some love him, some don't. What's the concern level with Fields, or why is there a concern level?
Well, there's a media that loves him. I mean, all the mock drafters, the worldwide leaders, draft predictors, they all love him. And I think that when you talk to people in the league, there's a lot of concern. His mechanics are not very good. He overstrides with the football. His elbow is very loose. He can't really control the football when he needs to. It's going to take some real rehab to handle his throwing mechanics. Doable, but it's going to take some time. Doesn't play nearly as fast as the 40 time would indicate. Just doesn't do that. And I think there is some sense of an anticipatory throw that he doesn't make with regularity. I think that's what happens to a lot of quarterbacks when they run so much out of the spread formation. Guys are wide open, they throw it to them. In the NFL, no one's wide open. You have to throw the ball before he gets out of the cut. That takes an anticipatory throw, and I think that's challenging. Now, there are some teams that like Fields. I think Carolina loves Fields. Would they pick Fields at 8? I doubt it. They would like not to, but they might. Do I think a team like New England would trade up to get Fields? No, I've never thought that, and I've said that. I've been on record for the last 2 months saying that. But I do think there are some teams. Is Washington one of them? No. I don't think they like him. I think they like Trey Lance.
Interesting. Mike Lombardi is our guest. Let's talk some locals, okay? Right here in New York. So you got Dave Gettleman, and the Giants are sitting at number 11. How serious do you think Gettleman is about the possibility of trading back in this draft, something that we have not seen him do ever as general manager?
Well, the only way you trade back is when you truly love someone. You truly don't love anybody, right? The way you trade back is you say, look, if we go from 12 or 11 to 17, we're going to get one of these four players, and we'll be happy with whoever we get. If you really just want the one player, if you want Pay or you want Micah Parsons, which I think probably Parsons fits them like a T, if you want, then you can't move back. Then you know you're going to lose your guy. And I think oftentimes in the draft, some teams want to get the guy that they love, and they're not worried about adding more picks. They're worried about getting who they love. One thing about the NFL draft, if you're a love drafter, you'll never move. You don't move in the rounds because you love the guy you're looking at. And I think that's part of it. And Dave's never going to be one to really do that. I think he's always been very comfortable making his picks. I mean, the Cincinnati Bengals have done that continuously. They make their picks. And when you break it down, you know, I think there's no doubt that there'll be a player that you like or you don't like. But I think at the end of the day, you've got to be able to say, look, you know, I got to make these picks. I mean, since Dave has been there, they've had 27 picks, not counting last year's draft. And him as a general manager, not counting last year's draft, 27 picks, 12 on offense, 15 on defense. And, you know, I think when you look at that, that's kind of what he typically does. They like size, speed guys, like guys from the Big Ten.
You know, Mike, when you look at the quarterback, so say we make the argument Mac Jones is going to go third overall, right? Where does Fields and Lance fall then? Where do you think they end up going?
I don't know that answer. I really don't. I don't have a sense of it. I think, to me, when you look at that, it depends. Look, I think a team like the Raiders, nobody's talked about them drafting a quarterback, right? And so you would say, well, why do they need a quarterback? They got Derek Carr. It'd be really smart for the Raiders to draft a quarterback, and here's why. Do you want to pay Derek Carr $40 million next year? His contract's going to be up. You don't, right? Well, who's going to play quarterback for you?
You
better get one.
Yeah.
You got to find someone. And if you're sitting there at 17 and you have a chance to move up 3 or 4 spots to get a quarterback that you like, maybe you should think about doing that. Because I really don't think that that's what's going to happen. I think you're not going to pay him, so you better figure out a way to where you can get yourself in position to have a quarterback.
Mike, are you as high on Pitts coming out of Florida as everyone seems to be?
You know, I think there's no doubt that Pitts has got a unique ability to change the middle of the field. Look, what's the hardest thing to defend in the NFL is the middle of the field. And when you can control the middle of the field, much like in chess, when you control the middle of the field, you really control the game. Everybody talks about the outside receivers, and that's great, and you've got to defend that. But when you control the middle of the field, you put more pressure on the defense. When you put, you know, we no longer talk about first and second down. We must talk about first, second, or third down. We must talk about what personnel groups are on the field. And where Pitts changes the dynamic of the game is if he's on the field and they're in 12 personnel, 1 back, 2 tight ends, can the linebacker stay on the field? Do you have to substitute? And if you have to substitute, can he take advantage of it in the run game? And if you don't substitute, can he take advantage of it in the passing game? It's much like the NBA. When we go small, what do you do? When we go big, what do you do? That's what Pitts gives you in terms of trying to run your offense.
Love the chess analogy. The Grandmaster Mike Lombardi joining us now. Okay, so the Jets. I'm predicting a big night for the Jets. Mike, you can tell me if I'm totally wrong about this, but they got 21 picks over the next 2 years. They're just stacked with picks. And it's about time for Joe Douglas to start building this roster. You know, we believe they're going to take a quarterback number 2 at 23. You know, who knows? There's a lot of options for them, obviously. What do you anticipate for the Jets on Thursday night?
Well, I think, you know, knowing Douglas and knowing his background from Baltimore and how he loves picks, I mean, he's a college scout. He loves draft picks. So, you know, to me, the challenge he's got to have is, can he fit the picks into a team-building element? Can he do that? You know, can that really help? Who is he going to get to be a right tackle? All those things have to come in, and the evaluations have to hold true, and they've got to have harmony within the staff as they develop players from within. And it fits what Saleh wants to do defensively and what they want to do offensively. So, you know, when you have that many picks, you should hit, because the one thing about the draft, the more chances you get at bat, the better chance you have of being successful.
Mike, if you were Douglas, would you be looking to package some of the selections to try and move up from 23?
That's typically not what they do in, Baltimore, but I think in his case, I think it's all predicated on his board. I think the one thing about the guys that come from Baltimore is they're married to their board. Whatever the board said they're going to do. And if they run out of players, then they'll trade up. If they have a lot of players, they'll trade down. So they're unique in that sense. They're not going to behave like a Gettleman who's basically going to fall in love with the position. I mean, since Dave's been the GM going back to Carolina at 13 and then not counting last year, he's only made 6 trades in 8 years. So, that's less than 1 a year. Whereas Douglas, I think he will, but more than likely move down.
Mike, last one for me, and it's going back to the Giants for a moment. And you mentioned, we like to hear a lot from the Giants about, building their culture, and every team really says that. But, Micah Parsons does have there was an incident, a hazing incident that he was named in. Nothing came of it. It was nothing criminal, but definitely a potential red flag. Do you think that would prohibit the Giants at all from thinking twice about him?
No, I really don't, and I think the reason why is because there's off the field character that they have to assess, and then there's on the field character they have to assess, and how that on the field character fits their culture and how their off the field character. So there's 2 character elements. How much does he love football is going to carry a lot of weight, and his behavior off the field is going to carry weight. So you've got to marry those 2 together.
Mike, I got 2 more for you. The concern level here, because you've seen a number of stories. Number 1 with the medicals, number 2 with the scouting process. The comfortability level for NFL teams going into this draft, which gets going on Thursday night. Are we making too much of it with the uncertainty with some of the medicals and also with the lack of scouting with what was a strange college season?
Well, the scouting really, it's weird because we don't have a lot of games. I mean, look, Zach Wilson's played 7 games, right? And lost at Coastal Carolina. What's the level of comp he's playing against? So, you have to judge that. There's enough tape to judge it. Whether you're correct with the judgment, that remains to be seen. I think the more challenge that faces teams is the medical. Without getting your doctor's hands on a lot of these guys' bodies, it becomes very challenging. And you've got to be really good at being able to evaluate through FaceTime and through calls to other people the character of the players off the field. That's critical. When I first started in the league, we could walk into any building and go talk to the trainer, go talk to the coaches, and everybody was brutally honest. Today, no one tells you the truth. And you've got to find your way around that building and come up with the truth somehow, some way. And in a time when it's difficult to meet people face-to-face, that presents even a bigger problem.
Would the weight of Devontae Smith at 166 pounds concern you, Mike?
It always does. I mean, look, when you're a size speed team, you worry about that. Can he hold up? I don't think you're worried about him playing. You're worried about him holding up. It's a different game from pro to college, and so you've got to be able to handle press coverage on every single play, and that takes a toll on your body. I think we saw Ruddy last year with the Raiders. He struggled through it last year. And I think sometimes you're going to get him bigger and stronger. It's not, the draft isn't about what can you do for me next year. It's about what are you going to do for me over your career, and I think you're going to have to get him bigger. There's no doubt.
And last one for me, Mike, usually, we see a guy that ends up dropping some years in the first round of the draft. Is there a guy here as we're, a couple days out from the first round that you think has gotten a lot of buzz that might be one of those droppers in round 1?
I think we talked about it at the top of the show. I mean, Justin Fields, I don't know where he's going to go. I mean, could he go to Carolina at 8? I could see that. Does somebody come up and get him? I don't think that. I'm not sure. Really, it's all over. Last year I wasn't sure Tua was actually a lock at 4. There was a lot of conversations he might slip, and Miami came in and got him. And fortunately for the Chargers, they were going to take whatever one was left. They got the better quarterback.
They did. Hey, Mike, we appreciate it. Thanks for hopping on the program today.
Guys.
Enjoy the draft on Thursday, all right?
Thank you.
You got it. That was Odyssey NFL insider Mike Lombardi.